В този урок ще се запознаете с основните институции на Европейския съюз, с техните функции и специфики. Ще започна с Европейския съвет. Европейският съвет се състои в представителство на отделните държави членки на най-високо ниво. Той е съставен от държавните или представителните ръководители на държавите членки. В България и в повечето държави това е министър-председателят. Функциите му са да дава политическите насоки, да определя приоритетите на развитието на политиките, да избира и назначава някои ръководни органи. Той обаче не може да приема законодателни актове. Европейският съвет заседава 2 пъти на всеки 6 месеца, но при нужда има възможности за повече заседания. Председателят на Европейският съвет се избира с мандат за 2 години и половина, но този мандат може и да се подновява. В момента председател е Доналд Туск, бивш премиер на Полша, с мандат до 31 май 2017 година. Разберете повече за това как работи Европейският съвет във видеото.
Pour faire court, un sommet européen, c'est ça. Première précision, le Conseil européen n'a rien à voir avec le Conseil de l'Europe, basé lui à Strasbourg, en France, et qui est une organisation internationale extérieure à l'Union européenne. Mais au fait, depuis quand ont lieu les sommets européens ? Allez, un peu d'histoire. En 2014, cela fera 40 ans que ces conseils européens rythment officiellement la vie politique de l'Union. En 1974, l'idée de l'ancien président français Valéry Giscard d'Estaing était de créer un club où les chefs d'État et de gouvernement pourraient se rencontrer régulièrement. Mais ce n'est qu'en 2009, avec le traité de Lisbonne, que le Conseil européen devient une véritable institution dotée d'un président stable, désigné pour 2 ans et demi, renouvelable une seule fois. Mais à quoi servent réellement ces grandes messes politico-médiatiques ? Aussi étonnant que cela puisse paraître, le Conseil européen n'a pas de pouvoir législatif. Seule la Commission européenne peut proposer des lois. En revanche, c'est au Conseil européen qu'il appartient de définir au plus haut niveau les grandes orientations et les priorités politiques de l'Union. Mais forcément, pour parvenir au fameux compromis européen, c'est de plus en plus compliqué, surtout avec 28 chefs d'État et de gouvernement autour de la même table. Car l'idée générale est de prendre des décisions par consensus. À partir de novembre 2014, pour qu'une décision soit adoptée, celle-ci devra obtenir le soutien de 55% des États représentant au moins 65% de la population de l'Union. Mais certaines décisions peuvent aussi être prises à l'unanimité. Chaque État dispose donc d'un droit de veto. Par exemple, pour constater qu'un État membre a violé de manière grave et persistante des valeurs de l'Union, en matière de politique étrangère et de sécurité commune, ou encore pour approuver la notification des traités européens, quoique la procédure ait été simplifiée ces derniers temps. Mais revenons-en aux sommets européens. En réalité, une bonne partie des négociations se joue bien avant le sommet. Tout se passe en coulisses entre les diplomates, les ministres des Affaires étrangères et les fonctionnaires européens. À tel point qu'il est possible de se procurer un brouillon des conclusions du sommet avant même l'arrivée des chefs d'État. Mais comment les journalistes parviennent à s'informer puisque toutes les discussions se passent à huis clos ? D'où les heures d'attente légendaires qui ponctuent chaque sommet européen. En vérité, le secret des débats n'est jamais total. Durant les sommets, chaque délégation organise aussi des points presse. C'est le règne du off, mais l'info circule quand même de manière informelle. Et pour ceux qui n'ont pas accès au sommet, les médias sociaux ont désormais pris le relais. En tapant #ECO sur Twitter, vous pouvez suivre quasiment en direct l'avancée des discussions, sans être à l'intérieur de ce bâtiment. À propos du bâtiment, justement, jusqu'ici, les chefs d'État se réunissaient dans cet édifice, le Juste Lips. Mais à terme, tout devrait se dérouler dans ce nouveau bâtiment en construction, toujours au cœur du quartier européen, à Bruxelles.
Европейският парламент е институцията, която представлява интересите на народите на държавите членки. Парламентът има 2 сгради, като пленарните му заседания се провеждат в Страсбург, Франция, а постоянните комисии са в Брюксел, Белгия. Европейският парламент се състои от 751 депутати, като броят на депутатите за всяка страна се разпределя спрямо броя на населението. Най-малко една държава може да има 6 евродепутати. Такива страни са Кипър, Малта, Люксембург и Естония. Най-много депутати има Германия – 96. България пък има 17 евродепутати. Европейският парламент е единствената пряко избирана институция на Съюза. Съставът му се определя на европейски избори на всеки 5 години, в които участват всички европейски граждани, които имат право на глас. Последните избори бяха през месец май 2014 година. Двете най-големи политически партии в Европейския парламент са Европейската народна партия с 221 депутати и партията на социалистите и демократите с 191. Европейският парламент, заедно с съвета, е законодателният орган на Съюза. Освен това, той приема бюджета и упражнява политически контрол върху комисията. Повече за длъжността евродепутат и за това как функционира Европейският парламент ще научите от следващите 2 видеа.
This is a member of the European Parliament, an MEP. There are 751 of them, representing the European Union's 500 million citizens. They all work at the European Parliament, the equivalent of national parliaments at European level. But who are they? They can be adult men or women who decide to go into politics to represent their fellow citizens. They must stand the test of elections, which are held every 5 years. If they emerge victorious, they can pack their bags and head off to Brussels, where most of their work will be done. Every month, the MEP will go to Strasbourg for a week or so, because that's where the big debates are held and the big decisions are made. The MEPs all meet there for 4 days of intensive discussions and votes. But most of the time they work in Brussels. What, so they can become experts in chocolate and fries, you ask? No, to use their expertise in several of the EU's areas of work. What do I have the most expertise in? It can be finance, the environment, agriculture, transport. MEPs can choose from among a total of around 20 committees. These are meetings where a smaller group of MEPs come together around a particular theme. They are also meetings bringing together MEPs of different nationalities into their political groups. And finally, the work of an MEP is done also on the ground, outside the Parliament. They regularly go back to their constituency, their country, to meet the fellow citizens they represent in the European Parliament. Hello and welcome to the European Parliament, a bit seat here in Strasbourg in France. But the bulk of its political work is done at its site in Brussels. And to make matters even more confusing, the bulk of its admin work is done in Luxembourg. "751 MEPs work on EU laws. They represent the diverse interests of 500 million Europeans, and every 5 years they're elected directly by the citizens of their country. In front of me are 1, 2, 3, 4, 28 flags, one for each member state, but each country doesn't have a right to the same number of representatives in Parliament. The allocation of seats depends on the size of the population. The maximum possible number of MEPs is 96, as in the EU's biggest member, Germany, and the minimum is 6, as in its smallest members, Luxembourg, Cyprus, Estonia and Malta. But what do all these MEPs do? The European Parliament has 3 principal powers, which are increasing all the time. MEPs work on and vote on European laws, covering almost all the EU's areas of competence, and that's a lot of competences. MEPs also work on the EU budget. At some point, all of the EU's expenditures are discussed here. And one other power, which is no less important, MEPs also have a certain amount of control over other EU institutions and agencies. For example, it's MEPs who elect the President of the European Commission. So everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing in Parliament. They've designed a colour-coded calendar. Red for plenary week. Pink for committees week. Blue for political groups week. and turquoise when MEPs go to their constituencies. It's here in Strasbourg, in this big spherical chamber, that the key decisions are adopted. That happens during the plenary session when votes take place on different articles of legislation. Plenary, from the Latin word plenum, related to full, because all MEPs come together in the same chamber. These sessions are a short, intensive week, once every month. MEPs want to pass, or at least vote on, a maximum number of files. For most of the time, though, it's preparatory work that keeps MEPs busy, and that happens during pink and blue weeks in the Parliament in Brussels. Pink for Parliamentary Committee Week. For example, human rights, security and defence, foreign affairs, transport and tourism, budgetary affairs, and the environment. All of these policy areas are treated separately by MEPs in select committees, like this one, Economic and Monetary Affairs. In each of these rooms, each of these committees, MEPs meet each other depending on their expertise in a particular area of European law. Here they examine and amend proposals coming from the Commission and the European Council. There are around 20 parliamentary committees. Blue for Political Groups Week. These are always in Brussels in smaller committee meetings, but in this case it works also according to the political affiliation of each MEP. It could be the European People's Party, or the group of Socialists and Democrats, or the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe. Each political group defines its priorities in these meetings. The agendas of the parliamentary committees and of the plenary sessions themselves depend on them. And finally, turquoise means external parliamentary activities. During this week, MEPs can be found on the ground in the constituencies of the citizens they represent. By the end of it all, the work of Parliament becomes a reality in the everyday lives of Europeans. When a piece of legislation is passed, there's nothing more to wait for than the time it takes to be adopted in the legal codes of different member states. That could mean, for example, the recognition of diplomas and professional qualifications, more stringent standards for food safety and labelling of products in stores, reinforced air and rail passenger rights, stricter standards for bathing water, the implementation of banking union, and a weighty package of measures proposed by MEPs to deal with the crisis, also adopted by Parliament. In short, finance, environment, health, consumer protection, free movement of people, goods and services, commerce, agriculture, fishing, monetary policy, and so on and so forth. No one can say the work of the European Parliament isn't diverse.
Съветът, също познат като Съвет на министрите, представлява интересите на правителствата на отделните държави членки. Седалището му се намира в Брюксел. Състои се от по един министър от всяка държава членка в зависимост от ресора. Заседава в различни състави, например Съвет на външните министри, Съвет транспорт, Съвет селско стопанство и така нататък. Общо има 10 състава. Заедно с Европейският парламент, Съветът е законодателният орган на Съюза. В следващите клипчета ще научите как се вземат решенията в Съвета, как се гласува, каква е разликата между Съвета и Европейския съвет, които често биват бъркани, както и повече за председателството на Съвета, каквото предстои и на България през 2018 година.
How does the decision-making process in the Council of the European Union work? Well, the Council is one of the three main institutions of the EU, with the Commission and the Parliament. It is composed of national government ministers from each of the 28 member states. Ministers represent the interests of their own democratically accountable governments. The Council and the Parliament consider, amend, negotiate and adopt EU legislation, normally proposed by the Commission. That is the ordinary legislative procedure, also known as co-decision. It sounds simple, but it's not that easy. Under the ordinary legislative procedure, the Council and the Parliament are on equal footing. If they reach agreement, they can adopt the legislation at first reading. If not, there is a second reading. If following the second reading, the two institutions still can't agree, a conciliation committee is convened. Since 1999, 67% of ordinary legislative procedure files have been concluded during the first reading, 24% during the second reading, and only 9% through conciliation. There are two other procedures used for a few specific cases: the consent procedure and the consultation procedure. Once adopted, certain types of EU legislation then have to be incorporated into national law. Some are directly applicable, others take some time to become law for the 500 million citizens of the EU. How can ministers hold their national jobs and sit in the Council? Well, they get a little help. All the work of the Council is prepared or coordinated by the Permanent Representatives Committee, known as COREPER. COREPER is made up of Member State representatives. In addition, the Council has more than 150 working parties and committees who also help. Phew, those ministers are human after all. In short, that's how decision-making in the Council of the EU works. Find out more on the website at concilium.europa.eu. How does the voting system in the Council of the European Union work? The Council is made up of Member State representatives, who meet regularly to adopt and discuss EU legislation. Decisions at Council meetings are taken by vote. The Council can only vote if a majority of its members is present, 15 out of 28. There are three types of voting procedure: simple majority, qualified majority, and unanimity. Simple majority voting is used for procedural issues, such as the rules governing Council committees. It requires the majority of Member States, 15 out of a total of 28, to vote in favour of the proposal. Qualified majority is used for the 80% of EU legislation adopted through the ordinary legislative procedure, also known as co-decision. A qualified majority is reached if two conditions are met. 55% of Member States vote in favour, in practice this means 16 out of 28. The proposal is supported by Member States representing at least 65% of the total EU population. This is the double majority rule. Proposals can be blocked by a group of at least 4 Member States, representing more than 35% of the EU population. This is called a blocking minority. Not that complicated, but wait, there's a catch. This qualified majority rule is in use from November 2014. But until 2017, Member States can still request to use the previous rule. Under this rule, each Member State has a certain number of votes, based on their population size. Reaching a qualified majority needs 260 votes, out of a total of 352, from at least 15 Member States. Now for unanimity. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. It requires everyone to agree or abstain. If a Council member abstains, the other ministers can still reach unanimity. Unanimity voting is used for some specific areas mentioned in the EU treaties, such as citizenship, EU membership, and taxation. After the Council votes on legislative texts, the results are immediately made available to the public. Now you know how voting in the Council of the EU works. Find out more on the website at concilium.europa.eu. What is the Council? When asked to name the main EU institutions, People usually say the Commission, the Parliament and the Council, but the Council actually refers to two different institutions, the European Council and the Council of the European Union. They are not the same, but they do have similar names, and they also share the same buildings and staff, the General Secretariat of the Council. No wonder people are sometimes confused. They might have similar names, but they have very different roles and membership. The European Council sets the EU's political direction and priorities. It does not negotiate or adopt EU laws. It is made up of the heads of state or government from each EU country and meets at least 4 times a year. Meetings are chaired by the President of the European Council, who is elected every 2.5 years. So that's the European Council. But what about the Council of the EU? Well, it negotiates and adopts EU legislation together with the European Parliament. It is made up of national government ministers grouped together by policy area. For example, economic and finance ministers meet to discuss financial affairs, and ministers of justice negotiate justice issues. It also coordinates policies in certain areas, develops the common foreign and security policy, concludes international agreements, and adopts the EU budget with the European Parliament. The presidency of the Council rotates among the EU member states every 6 months. You may also have heard of the Council of Europe, but this is not an EU institution. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty straightforward. The European Council sets the EU's political agenda. The Council of the EU negotiates and votes on legislation. Find out more on our website at concilium.europa.eu. What is the Council Presidency and how does it work? The Council Presidency is responsible for driving forward the Council's work. Each member state is called upon in turn to take on this role and ensure continuity in the Council's agenda. The Council Presidency has several key tasks. It plans and chairs meetings of the ministers and working groups of civil servants discussing EU legislation in the Council. But in the case of foreign affairs, it is the EU's High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy who plans and chairs meetings. The Presidency also represents the Council in relations with the Commission and the European Parliament. It negotiates on behalf of the Council to reach agreement on legislative files with the other EU institutions. The Presidency of the Council rotates among the EU member states every 6 months. This means that each country takes it in turns to lead the Council and prepare a 6-month work programme. The order of rotation of the presidencies is set by the Council. Member states holding the presidency work together in groups of 3, called trios. They set long-term goals and prepare a common agenda of topics to be addressed by the Council over an 18-month period. These long-term goals are guided by the priorities adopted by the European Council in its strategic agenda, covering, for instance, jobs, growth and competitiveness, energy and climate policies, freedom, security and justice. Find out when your country will next be leading the Council and much more on concilium.europa.eu.
Европейската комисия представлява интересите на целия Европейски съюз. Тя е независим орган със седалище Брюксел. Състои се от по един комисар от всяка държава членка, който е длъжен да защитава интересите на целия съюз, а не на собствената си държава. Основните правомощия на Европейската комисия включват изготвяне на проекти за закони, управляване на политиките на Съюза, контролиране на това как държавите изпълняват задълженията си да прилагат европейските закони под формата на регламенти и директиви на своята територия. Председателят на комисията се избира по предложение на държавите членки на Европейския съвет и се гласува от парламента. В момента председател е Жан-Клод Юнкер, бивш премиер на Люксембург. В следващите 2 видеа ще научите повече за ролята на европейските комисари, както и ще обобщим функциите на Европейския съвет, Съвета и Европейската комисия.
They are the people responsible for the day-to-day running of the EU. And every 5 years, 28 positions must be filled by competent individuals to make up the new European Commission. Each member state nominates a candidate in consultation with the Commission President, who then assigns them a portfolio. These are linked to the Commission's departments. After going through their portfolios with a fine-tooth comb, they face a public hearing at the European Parliament. Each commissioner must face MEPs in the committees linked to their portfolio during a 3-hour web stream meeting. They also have to prepare 5 written answers and an opening speech lasting no more than 15 minutes. What follows are intense discussions where the politicians have just 24 hours to evaluate the wannabe commissioners, and they can refuse or confirm the candidate. A report is then sent to the top table, the Conference of Committee Chairs and the Conference of Presidents, to draw up a draft resolution to be submitted to a plenary vote. MEPs then gather in Strasbourg to give the new Commission the thumbs up or the thumbs down. In the latter case, a new nominee must be named. If not, it's up to the Council to give its seal of approval along with a nod from the Commission President.
The European Union is made up of 3 big houses: the Commission, the Council of the EU and the European Council, and then there's the Parliament. This is the People's House. The 500 million European citizens it represents elect directly the members. With the 2014 elections, there will be 751 members of Parliament in the chamber. The number of seats a country has varies according to its population. Here in the Parliament, all the EU's laws are decided. So is the EU's budget. This is done jointly with the Council of the European Union. This council is the house where the ministers of the 28 member states meet. All EU laws and the budget must pass through it. It holds a key position as it also houses the European Council, representing the interests of the 28 member states. Heads of state and government come together to determine the EU's general political direction. And our final stop on the tour of the EU's houses is the Commission, the EU's executive body and the guardian of the treaties. The Commission proposes European laws and implements the laws once they're adopted. It also ensures that the treaties are upheld.
Съществува и една специфична длъжност, тази на върховния представител на Европейския съюз по въпросите на външните работи и политиката на сигурност, който де-факто изпълнява функциите на министър на външните работи на Европейския съюз. Тази фигура обаче изпълнява и други дейности. Заместник-председател на комисията, председателства заседанията на съвета по външните работи и участва в работата на Европейския съвет. Върховният представител на Европейския съюз в въпросите на външните работи и политиката на сигурност е създаден през 2009 година с договора от Лисабон. От 2014 година длъжността се изпълнява от Федерика Могерини. Вижте повече за нея.
She's one of the most powerful people in Europe.
People say I have 2 hats.
Do you know who she is?
Good morning.
You should do.
I have 3 offices in 3 different buildings.
She travels, meets a lot of people. Her job is hard to pin down.
Diplomatic, political, but also economic.
Well, it covers some of it. There's more.
Climate change.
We're not quite there yet.
Energy.
Now we're getting there. Oh, her name is Federica Mogherini. You can find out more. Meet her on Europal TV.
Съдебната институция на Европейския съюз е съдът. Той има за цел да гарантира спазването на законите, като санкционира институциите на Европейския съюз и държавите членки, които не спазват правните норми на съюза. Състои се от по един съдия от всяка държава членка. Седалището му се намира в Люксембург. Чудите се как по-точно функционира съдът? Вижте следващото видео.
Hi, welcome to Luxembourg. We're visiting the Court of Justice of the European Union. In your country, a court is a building with judges and lawyers. Its job is to deliver justice. It settles all types of conflict, not just crimes. The Court of Justice of the European Union, where I'm taking you, has a special role. It only deals with matters that involve European law. And that's quite something. Let's go to the library. Look at that! Those shelves are huge! They contain every subject to do with European law. The European Union makes laws. It creates a set of rules that must be applied in all EU member states. The aim is to make sure the EU's objectives are met. For example, to protect the environment. Another is to make sure Europeans can move freely between member states. So it must be verified that EU law is respected everywhere. Imagine, if an EU member state doesn't adhere to a European law, it can be brought to this courtroom. Then, just like in the movies, the state is put on trial, in the dock, with lawyers for the defence and one or more judges. The state can even be fined if it doesn't obey the decision made at the end of the trial. The Court of Justice deals with conflicts involving one of the European institutions, one member state, or even several member states. And then there's a court that deals with cases involving European citizens and businesses. But the cases have to involve EU law. But most of the time, the Court of Justice's work is interpretation. Isn't that right, Your Honour? That's the correct way to address a judge. As well as treaties and legislation coming from the EU's political institutions, there's jurisprudence that clarifies treaties and legislation. It's hard to find your way round. Judges in particular countries aren't always sure they understand European laws, so they ask European judges for help. So what does this jurisprudence look like? It's behind me. It's printed in all 23 languages of the European Union, each with a different colour. Basically, these judgments affect the everyday lives of European citizens when they're travelling, working, staying or studying in a different member state. That's exactly what I said. European law covers a great deal of our everyday lives. Overall, more than 1,000 cases are heard here every year. I think we need a little summary. The Court of Justice of the European Union is used, 1. to resolve conflicts between member states or between a state and one of the European institutions. 2. to resolve certain conflicts involving European citizens and businesses, only if these involve European laws. 3. to help judges in member states understand European law so they can apply it properly. It does other things as well, but these are the most important. I'll spare you the details. Bye!